So I have the honor today of speaking with you about how we can shift our life from unconscious creation into conscious creation. And how many of you here are ready to create the best year of your life? Okay, so how many of you are really ready to create the best year of your life? Yes. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go on a journey now of what, in my experience, that involves. Because I came into New Thought in 1988, and I quickly grabbed onto this idea of using affirmations to change our life. And the community I was involved with had a big sign on the wall that said, "Change your thinking, change your life." And so I thought, oh, this is good. I can do this, and I love this because I can notice what I'm thinking, and I can begin to shift it. And that took me a decade to really understand the power of my thinking. And as I shifted my thinking, I began to recognize that life, the vibration of my thoughts, began to manifest in the outer world. And it was a really fun period of life. I was laughing. It was a really fun part of my journey because I shifted from being a victim to the world to having some power. See, I had given all my power away. I believed the world was happening to me. And so when I came into metaphysical teaching, the recognition that I could begin to take charge of my life, change my thinking, and change my life was a really powerful and important step. So I did the vision boards. And my vision board, let me tell you what my vision board looked like. It had the hot guy in the great house and the nice car, and it had the view, and it had all of that. And I remember a profound moment that happened in my journey. I remember in a class when it was time to do vision boards. It was probably the last week of December, the first week of January. That's what we do, right? We look at vision boards in that 2-week period, and we start to look at what we want to manifest. And I had a moment that I got really quiet. And it was very clear to me that I wanted my vision board to be blank. And the reason that I wanted my vision board to be blank is I wanted to move into a new level of consciousness that was beyond my mind. Yes. I was really aware of the power of the mind and also painfully aware, with the emphasis on painfully, that it also has its limitations. Because what I was manifesting by using the power of my mind was created out of my own BS belief system, and therefore limited. So I'm in the class, I'm sitting there, everyone's doing their vision board just like I've been doing for years, and I knew it was my turn to get the magazine out, the glue sticks, and put all the stuff I wanted. And I sat there and I thought, no, that's not what I want. But guess what I did? Anyone want to guess what I did?
You did the vision board.
I did it anyway.
Yes.
Because that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to talk about the life I wanted to create, cut out all the pictures of what I wanted to create, glue it to the board, hang it up, and use that as my affirmation throughout the year. And again, it was powerful, and it is powerful. It's a really great creative tool. And I was at a place where I recognized that there was a deeper calling in my life, and that calling was to look deeper within for a deeper vision for my life. So I had the knowing. My ego came in and said, no, you're supposed to do it this way. You do it. You have a mind sometimes. Yes. So I did it. I said, I'm cutting out the thing. And all the while, I'm like, I'm out of integrity here with what's really happening. So my journey took me to some pretty dark places after that. Because what I had manifested was built on a shaky foundation. And I ended up in a place where I lost everything that was on that vision board. And I mean everything. I had put the business, the house, the partner, the Lexus. It was a Lexus. It did happen that way. It all happened. If there's two things that I want to speak of that are really important in my own journey, and that is, one, everything manifested and I didn't feel any different. It didn't shift what I had hoped it would shift. Because see, in a subtle or maybe not so subtle way, I was still believing that if I could just manifest all of this, I would feel whatever, fill in the blank. I would feel more love, more presence, more connection. I would be happier if I could manifest manifest all that. And I knew intellectually that it was really the other way around, but experientially I had to go through a very interesting period of time that we might call the dark night of the soul. Because not only did it not shift the way I was feeling, can anyone guess what my solution to that was when it wasn't really working? Manifest more. Thank you. Yes, I knew someone would get it. Okay, I'm going to do this more. I'm going to manifest more. I'm going to increase my business. I'm going to get a bigger house. This is genuinely, by the way, my story. This isn't, I'm not using this as a parable. This is what happened in my life. And I was surrounded by a community that really did equate financial abundance with a higher level of spiritual vibration. And there's nothing inherently right or wrong about that. It's just, for me, what was happening was I thought that I needed to look that way. In other words, I was still living from the paradigm of please don't see what's really happening here. So I tried to get more and more and more and more and more. And that's why I'm really careful when we talk about our theme for the year, Your Life Magnified. I'm not talking about turning the volume up on what we're doing in our life. We're talking about magnifying it in a really different way. And so what happened was I had to call in to go into ministry. The front row always laughs at that one. I had to call in to go into ministry. And what happened when I finally said yes to that? Because it took me 1 year to speak it out loud. And I was in another class. I'm plugging classes and workshops. So much happens there. I was in a workshop with my now good friend Diane Conway, who wrote the book, What Would You Do If You Had No Fear? And I was in the class, and I was sitting in the back corner, and she said, TJ, what would you do if you had no fear? And I knew at that moment that it was time for me to speak the calling of wanting to go into ministry and to do spiritual work and to really be a part of shifting consciousness on the planet. But see, I had never said it because it was really incongruent with my vision board. Because what's the old paradigm of ministers? Right? No money, no nice house. Now, I mean, that, there's a program around that. And I was like, how am I going to do that? But she looked at me, and the way she looked at me shot right through me, and I realized it was time to speak it. And so I said, with my voice shaking, I would go into ministry. And she said, yes, I see that. And here's an interesting thing that happened in the room. People all around me, because they knew me as this other image, didn't understand. They didn't see it. I felt it really deeply, and my now friend Diane, who was leading the workshop, saw it really clearly too. She was present enough to ask the question and see where does it emerge from? Because that was coming from a really deep knowing. And so everyone in the room, or a lot of people in the room, tried to say, well, maybe you could, because I had a furniture store at the time, maybe you could infuse your furniture with spiritual energy. Or maybe you could make spiritual furniture. I'm not sure what spiritual furniture is. Because see, what happens is the collective consciousness, the collective ego, that was a really big leap from what I was doing, or this presentation, this person I was presenting, to what this deeper calling was. There was a really big leap there, and so people's minds maybe couldn't quite get that. And so I sat with that, and I recognized that it was time for me to say yes to a deeper calling. I was also in another workshop one time when we were doing some visioning, which I'm going to talk about, and I promise I'm going to get to the 5 steps to consciously creating your life. I had a partner in a workshop, and we got really clear through vision a deeper purpose for life. And my friend that I was with said, all I really know for sure is that I'm here to serve animals in some way. And when she got that message, she looked like 20 years dropped off of her face. Her whole expression changed. She lit up. She just became alive with this knowing. And within about 15 seconds, her mind started shutting it down. Well, how can I do that? I'm 57 or whatever she was. I can't go back to school. There's no way. And I watched her close down the dream. And it was so profound for me to witness that deep place of knowing and that expression and what happened when she expressed that. And then how her mind came in to tell her all the reasons why she couldn't do that. And, you know, she's a good friend of mine. She hasn't done that. And she does seem happy in her life. She really does. I mean, she seems happy. And I know, because of that moment, that there's that deep calming. So what I want to move into in this conversation is how all of that has informed my own journey. And by the way, after saying yes to the calling to go into ministry is when everything fell apart. Right? It fell apart because it was time for all of that to be cleared away, because there's a couple things. One, I had said yes to a deeper calling. And two, everything that I had built on that shaky foundation of believing that if I can attain this or manifest this, I would be happy.
Yes.
So the deeper calling that I said yes to allowed me to connect more deeply with that purpose, and all of that needed to fall away in order for me to say yes, I think, to the calling, to really say yes. So at one point, I would love to do a full talk on Dark Night of the Soul. It's not this moment. I'm just going to say that I knew enough at that point in my own evolution to embrace the darkness rather than reject. And that the darkness was a place of fertilization and growth. And that it was happening, as we call it in a thought, chemicalization, which is where a new level of consciousness emerges, and it's incongruent with the level of consciousness that I'm operating at, and it literally burns off all of that level. That's what happened. I spent time with that while also going to school. And at one point, it became really clear to me, even though I promised myself I wasn't going to be the person with the 4-step, 5-step, or 6-step process. This process came through very clearly, and I want to share it with you today. Because this time of year, it naturally happens that people want to start talking about intentions, setting intentions, New Year's resolutions. How do I manifest the life of my dreams? And in my experience, there are some very important steps that need to happen before the intention setting process. So I have an acronym for my 5-step process, and it's MOVIE. It's creating a new movie for your life. So we've all heard the term projection, right? I'm projecting onto this blank canvas. Perhaps this is a hologram that I'm creating based on my awareness. So I'm the projector of the movie. I'm the producer of the movie. I'm the director of the movie, and I'm the star in the movie. I'm playing in every single part in it. So are you ready to have a new movie or a different movie than the one you've been running? Maybe some things, and I love what you're doing, Rena, with the gratitude. There are things that we have that we're grateful for, too, that we're bringing forward. And we also have the ability to shift into a new movie. And so here are the steps. M, movie, making peace with the past. And I want to go through the 5 and spend a few minutes on each of them. O, overcoming core false beliefs. V, visioning. I, intention setting. And E, embodying the vision. So why start with making peace with the past? To me, the most important first step of conscious creation is releasing all of every story that I've ever had about my own limitation. Every story I've ever had about how someone has wronged me, or how I've wronged someone else. I imagine it's like a canvas, right? We're painting our painting over a canvas, that if we don't clear out the old paint, it's going to eventually just seep through. That's why in the reading, what I share is that in 6 months, it's like I did all the affirmations. I thought I was making this big difference, and all of a sudden my relationships are feeling like they were. All of a sudden the situations are replicating themselves in my work environment. Because until I have made peace with the past is running the show. The past will continually show up. And O, overcoming core false beliefs. Why is this important? Carl Jung says until we make the unconscious conscious, it's running our life, and we call it fate. So, is it thoughts that create reality? Partially. Is it emotions that create reality? partially. For me, it's really the deep vibration that I'm tuned into, the frequency. The frequency I'm vibrating from and at that creates what we call reality. So as I said in the reading, if I am walking around with the core belief that I'm not lovable, what am I going to be doing? Trying to get you to love me? Or maybe I'll be like, I'm fine over here. I don't need love. Who needs love? I'm good. But thank you. I have a strategy to work with that core belief. But if I'm carrying a belief of unworthiness, no amount of achievement is going to shift that. I know that from personal experience. Just took me a couple of decades of that one to figure out. So until we get to a place where we recognize that we have these unconscious biases, beliefs, and ideas about ourselves and the world, it will continue to create in that way. When I'm walking around with a vibration of I'm not lovable and I'm trying to get you to love me, who am I going to choose?
Someone that reinforces that belief.
Someone that reinforces the core belief. Now, our conscious mind isn't telling us that. Like, oh, I know, I'm going to go find the biggest loser. And I'm going to connect with them. And that's why there's this big conversation around, I keep attracting unavailable people. We are shifting from the law of attraction to the law of radiance.
Yes.
Where we are no longer wanting to attract to us, but we are recognizing the vibration that we're holding, and as we release and overcome these core beliefs, we shift our frequency, and we're out in the world radiating that, and we naturally not only attract, but are attracted to people that match that vibration. That's just basic physics. Vibrations align. That's why when you can come into a community like Agape Bay Area, you can feel the vibration. It's a very strong vibration here. It might not be your frequency. That's why in leadership, people say, why aren't people coming back? We might not need them to. And I don't mean that in any, it's just, we have a particular frequency here. And someone's going to come in, like Lisa's going to come in and say, oh, I like this frequency. Because I know that's true. I come into this room and I'm like, I love this frequency. I can feel the love in the room. But there was a point, and I'll tell this story. There was a point in the early 90s when I went to India and stayed at Amos Ashram in southern India, Kerala. And the love energy was so powerful, and my core belief was still I'm not lovable. I walked into that space and felt that and had to go. Couldn't stay. It was too intense. Now, the thing that's interesting about India, at least at that time, was it wasn't like you could say taxi. So it took me 4 days to get out of there. And so that was another experience of chemicalization. And there was a young woman, I mean, she was probably older than me at the time, but she shared with me that was her exact experience the first time she came there. Because the love energy is so pure and so intense. And so, see, that's the law of radiance. They were radiating this beautiful love energy. And I walked into it and I was overwhelmed by it, and it wasn't matching my current frequency. It didn't mean that I didn't have the frequency of love, because of course we all have that. That's all essentially doing what we are. But I had buried it with all my core beliefs of unworthiness, not good enough, brokenness. And so I literally could not be there. Literally could not be there. So overcoming the core beliefs that are trapped in the unconscious and bringing them into conscious awareness is a way to recognize how we can begin to consciously create our lives. I want to say a word about feeling our feelings, because we are working with this incredible book, 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, and this month we're working with Commitment 3, which is Feel Your Feelings. And I want to share something about it because I think it's important. They say something that's really powerful in the book. They say, feeling your feelings, I'm going to paraphrase it, it's not getting stuck in the feelings. It's allowing them to flow through us. How do those feelings get stuck? With a story. She shouldn't have said that to me. So I'm stuck in the feeling. I'm feeling anger, I'm feeling sad. Whatever I'm feeling, the story keeps the feeling alive. When I allow myself to actually feel it and allow it to move through me, It's a natural process. Now, I want to share why I'm talking about feeling your feelings in the steps, making peace with the past and overcoming core beliefs. We don't bypass all of that. We allow ourselves to feel all of that as we're making peace with our past. As I'm recognizing some of the core beliefs and ideas and biases I have about myself and the world, I allow myself to feel those. What I want to offer, though, is what would you be feeling without the story? What would you be feeling without the story? To allow that feeling to move through us. And then we move into visioning. Very simple. The difference between visualization and visioning is profound. Visualization, as I shared in the beginning, is the vision board from my mind. Visioning, I would say, as created by Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, but it's actually thousands of years old. He harnessed it in a really profound way. He has a great gift of taking these concepts and making them really useful. Spending time in the silence and listening to a much deeper calling. Not creating my intentions from my mind, but from that place of inner stillness. And what I have discovered is when I listen very carefully, that inner voice always has a really amazing idea for my life that is much bigger than what I could create in my mind. And what I mean by bigger is more expansive, more open, more connection in the world, more love in the world. Because my mind is limited. No matter what I'm thinking, it's a limitation. No matter what I'm thinking. So you could look at money. I'm going to make $5 million this year. That's a limitation. I mean, it might be a nice one for some of us, but for some of us, for someone else, they'll be like, oh my God, I had a horrible year. Right? Someone else might think $5 million is, oh God, I'm almost bankrupt now. What can I do to make 20 next year? Right? So the mind is limited. And the important part about visioning is that we're not visioning from our mind. We come together once a month. Here's the vision for our community. And I notice sometimes I come in with preconceived ideas. And then I notice sometimes I, in the visioning process, can really tell it's coming from my mind.
Yeah.
Right? And then he said, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, mind. I know you're trying to create right now. I want to listen to something much deeper. And then comes the intention setting process. And I work with a process that has had such a profound impact on my life. I was, at the end of that dark night of the soul experience, I want to share with you what it looked like. So I was on disability because I had fallen off the ladder and shattered my heel after losing the house, the business, the partner, and the car. Okay, I can handle this. I've said yes to this calling. I'm breathing into it. Then I had a little issue. I had some feelings with the community I was involved with because they had done me wrong. So I committed myself to staying in the silence and working through that. And allowing myself to get to a place where I recognize that no one and no thing can ever do anything to me. It's only my perception of what is happening that creates what I call reality. My disability check was $1,200. I think it was $1,230 a month, and my rent was $1,200. It was an interesting time, right? It was interesting. And I dedicated myself to spending time in the silence, and all of this came flowing through about writing a book, about having a TV show, about having a radio show, about having a community. It just started flowing. And the reason I'm sharing it right now, and it's really important, is it started flowing as I was making peace with the situations in my life and taking 100% accountability. Not self-criticism or self-blame. Isn't it interesting that I've been doing this and the same pattern is showing up? It's a great question for me to ask myself. In what way is this situation reminiscent of other situations in my life? Well, it's the same one. It just keeps coming over and over and over and over again. So as I dedicated myself to spending that time in releasing all of that, what started emerging was this vision for my life. And I went to a friend of mine, and we really co-created and developed a process that's profoundly simple. We're going to be doing it in the class that is very, very simple. I'm not going to share the details of it. All I'm going to say about it, because I don't want us to jump to that stage.
Yes.
It's really important, because I had done that for decades. And if that's where we're at, that's where we're at. That's also okay. But for me, spending time in the silence and what needs to be released first creates a much larger vision. And then I moved into this really practical process. And I've been doing it for 10 years now. And every week I have my action items and my accountability partner. And I have these intentions that are realistic but a stretch. But the key, and this is the most important key, is that they came from vision, not from my mind. My mind would have limited it. My mind would have limited what we're creating here, what's happening in my world, in my life, my ability to be of service, because ultimately that's really what it's all about. And what I want to close with is this, is the last step is embodying the vision. And a lot of us have heard this about embodying the vision, and it's simply holding the energy or the vibration of knowing that which we're ready to manifest is already done in the realm of spirit. So I step in fully vibrating from that knowing. From that knowing, and for me, and this is just for me, what helps me in this step is always, how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? When I'm in the frequency of service to help and shift consciousness, rather than, oh, I want to be successful, or I want this to look like that, something much more magnificent emerges. So holding the vibration of knowing that which we're ready to manifest is already done is creative. So what I want to offer in closing is, again, the question, are you ready to create the 2019 of your dreams? Are you ready to make peace with the past? Are you ready to finally forgive them? Are you ready to finally forgive yourself? Are you ready to let go of that story that you've been carrying around for decades about rightness and wrongness? Are you ready to take a deep look, a deeper dive into the unconscious and recognize that as human beings, we all have deep programs. We've been programmed. Are you ready to take a look at those and unlearn them?
Yes.
Are you ready to spend time in the silence and vision your most magnificent life? A life filled with love, connection, and service. Are you ready to take time to be intentional about what you want to create? And are you ready to hold the vibration of love? Are you ready to be a radiant being in the world?